Since you saw this car last, we've done a bunch of little things. All the stuff that typically doesn't get shown or talked about in a restoration on a TV show. Starting with getting rid of the windshield glue, which may not seem that important, but without that gone, I have no idea what the metal underneath it looks like, and that makes a difference when we go to put the new roof skin on. The heated gasket scraper is just plain fun. Stinks though. So that was the mixture of butyl tape, silicone, fast set urethane, and rust. The good news is I didn't find any rust holes. There's a little bit of crustiness here. I could hear it kind of crunching when I was down in that area, but I'll clean that up with a wire brush and we should be good to go. I am so stoked that I'm finding solid metal under all of these prone areas for corrosion. So moving on, yay. So I had to remind myself how to remove these clips because these are original. I want to save them. We've had this discussion. What I'm going to do is kind of relieve the pressure, get this tab released from the pin, and now I can come up underneath and just work it up. Don't damage the pin, and I've got my original window clip. Except this one. Come on, you silly sucker. Okay, there it goes, and it comes up and over the 4-foot ditch. Nope. No, this one might be, oh, there it is. You gotta threaten its existence before it'll come off. Cooperate. A wire brush on the drill gets all of the vinyl top gunk out of the window groove and dresses remaining window sealant off of the metal. It's details like this that let us know what our foundation is like. And after all, if the foundation isn't solid, then we can't build a house of cards on it or something like that. That's the sound of a door that closes pretty okay. So where we left off is we got the quarter panel, the hinge pillar adjusted with the help of our hydraulic friend, Mr. Portapower, and kicked out, did a relief cut, and the door actually works again. It's hanging on the pin. Is it adjusted perfectly? Heck no, but we're not there yet. I still have to put in my new partial rocker panel. It's sitting here literally right out of the box. I got an inner just in case. I don't think I'm going to need the inner, but in order to properly adjust this door, it's kind of flippy-floppy right now. I've got to put in the new rocker panel. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull this door off again, and honestly, I'm looking at this door. I see layers and layers of paint and filler and all kinds of stuff. There's a bunch of sins under this door. I'm not certain that I'm not going to skin these doors. I'm not sure. Anyway, lots is up in the air. But in the meantime, I got the mixture, the cocktail of silicone, butyl tape, and fast set urethane out of the windshield frame and got that cleaned up, gave me a chance to inspect and take a look. Wire brushed it also to get a further look. The pins are all in good shape, but right here, uncovered a little bit of tin worm. That's pretty common with these cars, and that's fine. That sealer, that can go away. I'll get rid of that and do a little bit of a metal patch there. I had to do the same thing with Zed Sled. It's fine. It just happens. It's a collection point right here for moisture and condensation, things like that. So I'm not worried about that. Right here, this is going to go away. This flange completely is going to go away. And it's a double panel here. I've got to find all my spot welds across here, drill them out, and when I go to put the roof skin on, this all gets replaced. So I'm going to have to replace these pins. There's a couple of different ways to do that. I've got an attachment on my stud welder that has those pins. I'm going to try that, and if it doesn't work, if they don't adhere, they don't fuse, then there's a set of screws that we can use. I'd rather not punch holes in it, but anyway, lots of things to do. Step 72 on a 5,000 step project. But in the meantime, now that we got this in the right place, we've got to get it solidified to where we can build the rest of the car around it, quite literally. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to remove the door again, with the help again of some hydraulic tools, and we are going to move further. And I'm going to decide, honestly, whether we're going to put the whole rocker in or just a section of it. So here we go. It actually opened. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, more hydraulic stuff. Now this thing, I've had this around for a long time. It's a door dolly, fits onto any floor jack, and I can't even remember where I got it. It was a long time ago. And if you look at the floor jack, you can see that I take immaculate care of this particular piece of equipment. And it's never sat outside, and it's never gotten caked up with dirt and crust. So now with this supporting the door, hopefully I can get to these bolts and get it off, take the hinges off at the same time, and Bob will be our uncle. It's not the end of the world if the bolt plates fall in the backside, or if I don't perfectly lube everything up. I'm not worried about causing contamination because we're a long ways away from refinishing this stuff. But I like to put the bolts back in the holes that I took them out of, for the simple reason that they don't get lost. And saying that, I lost one of them. Seconds ago, I took them out, and now it's gone. And it's probably going to find my kneecap, but I don't know. Anyway, now I know where those are for the door. So I've been sitting here literally staring at this rocker panel for about 10 minutes. And I went to the AMD website and looked at my quarters, which I still haven't got yet. I'm debating whether or not, because this metal is so solid and it's so good up in here, I'm debating whether or not to put the whole rocker in. But here's the dealio. I struggle sometimes with being old and tired and still wanting to do the right thing. And I want to find the path of least resistance. But here's the real truth. We've got good solid metal in here, and it's in way better shape than a lot of cars that I've worked on and put partial quarters in, blah, blah, blah. But in here, it's great. I can see all these spot welds here, 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 here. All I got to do is trim those out, and I can get to the spot welds, and I can use the whole thing. But right here, super solid, man, super solid. And up inside here, I know it's super solid. Here's another thing. Look here. I've secretly and publicly laughed at this patch, but at the same time, it's galvanized and it's never going to rust. So who am I to throw stones at this guy, except for the fact that it's totally janky? But this has got to come off too. I'm putting quarters on this thing. The quarter panels include the lock pillar. It includes up into the sail pan. It's a complete quarter panel, not just a skin. So all of this stuff is going to be replaced anyways. This is already gone. For me to put the whole rocker in, I have got to drill all these spot welds out. So what? I'm going to have to do it anyway. So all I have to do is slice it across here, drill some spot welds out, and now I can put the whole rocker in. If I don't, even though this metal is solid, if I weld it from the outside, I can't weld it from the inside. And so there's a corrosion point. Also, this is a box section. You saw how strong it was. Look at the last episode. It took a lot of hydraulic force to get this thing moved back into shape to where the door would close properly. So this is an important part of the structure of this car. So my philosophical debate is to do it quickly or do it properly. And God, I hate standing on a high horse. Because when you stand on a horse, you could fall off, and the back's rounded. Anyway, I've got the panel here. Look here. Look at that. Ooh, ah. It's one continuous stamped rocker panel. It's not going to get any better than the inside of that. It's a high-quality electrodeposition primer. I'm not going to have to worry about any of this stuff. I can get... It's the right thing to do to put the rocker in. Plus, I'm going to be replacing this anyways. I already said that. Plus, because this is a good stamping, it's going to help me locate the hinge pillar here. And if there's anything that's still bent, I'll be able to use the new panel to kind of gauge against it and be able to adjust it in. So it's going to mean a lot more work, a lot more finding of spot welds, and I'm going to do it the way it needs to be done. And it's going to take me longer, but you know what? If we're going to do this, let's do it right. So here we go. I got to find a bunch of spot welds. I got my spot weld cutters, and you know, I'll get a 6-pack of adult beverages for later on, and I can, you know, cry in the shower when no one can see the tears. And we're going to do it right. Rocker going in, no sections, no partials, full, Monty, doing it now. So I got most of the rocker panel out of my way, and I have exposed spot welds, which are there, there's some there. Spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld. Now, if you've done this before, you know how to recognize these things. What I did is I took a flap wheel, you could use a grinder too, and I just ground over top. And where that fusion weld is, the factory spot welder pinches those and makes a mark. So it's really easy to spot where they are. So now what we do, different guys have different philosophies. I like to use a spot weld cutter. When you look at that blade, there's a little centering pin right there, and it's a cutter on the outside edge. I like to use these guys because if you gauge your depth and pressure properly, you just cut through one side. Some guys just cut through both sides, and that's fine, but I like to be as non-destructive as possible. So now there's probably 60 spot welds that I've got to cut out, so it's a lot of work, and I'm going to show you how to do one. One right here, center the pin on it, a little pressure. Low RPM is your friend here. See? Oh, tends to want to walk. There's a lot of people, including me, that say you should drill a pilot hole first. I'm working it. Come on, Kevin. All right, plan B. So now what I'm going to do is start with just a little dimple right in the lowest part of the spot welds without going through. This one right here, I'm really mad at this one. Another one here. like another one there. There might be another one there. Now my dimple will keep it walking. Now I can go low RPM. Now we'll get the panel separator knife and try and separate. Now, if you're paying attention, you've seen me switch spot weld cutters about 3 times. I started out with this guy, and the center pin fell out, and it was a little bit dull, and it walked all over the place. Might be some pilot error in that. Then I went to this guy, who, I don't know if I wasn't trying hard enough, but it just didn't work very well, so now I'm going to go with this guy. It's a double-sided cutter blade that's threaded on, and that's a little pin thingy that will center in my little divot. And we're going to try this. The thing about these is that it's a hardened steel, super sharp, but one slip and these teeth break off. And yeah, it's not a good thing. We know we got to drill some more here, because drill baby drill, and here we go. All right, I felt that. You hear that? I felt it. Ah, felt it again. Oh, look at that. Went all the way through. All right. All right, we're going to try that. Now I understand why guys scab these things together. Do the right thing. Thank you, right thing. All right, so I've got the rocker panel mocked up on jack stands here. We can see that this line here coincides with this line here. I just got to free that up a little bit and I can get this stuffed in. It'll be a nice slip fit and it'll go where it's supposed to. Back here, it's a little bit more of a challenge because this is the original rocker panel and it needs to go up inside there. Now, I thought for about 30 seconds about slicing it here along these lines and just sectioning it in. And then I started second guessing myself, so I called my buddy Chris Slee, KIWI Classics and Customs, and he confirmed what I already knew, which was the best way to go about this is to put the complete rocker panel assembly in. That way there's no corrosion opportunity from the backside, and let's face it, this is a structural member of this car. This car has a front subframe, but it does not have a full frame or a rear frame. So the frame is literally the unitized body of the car, the unibody. So I want to do this right. I want to do the right way. So Chris and I had a great conversation on the phone, and he basically told me how he would do it, which would be to cut some of the structure away, get access to put the whole rocker in, and then rebuild the structure around it. So it means another couple of hours worth of whittling, but like I said, I want to do this right. Sometimes it's just good to have friends we can confirm stuff with. So Chris is on his way. And this thing is going to fall down. How much of that do you think we have to cut away?
I really think we just maybe just come up at a slight angle here, like about there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was worried about having to pull the whole quarter out and then lose my point of reference for replacing the quarter, and I just got stuck.
No, I really don't think so. It's just, I mean, we're doing it in a somewhat reverse order to how it was put together at the factory, so some things are in the way, but you just kind of reverse engineer it a little bit with a little bit of redneck ingenuity. And,
yeah.
But yeah, like this is spot welded in the back here and here. So if we just cut it across here, we can lose this and that'll come out with it. And we can easily then pick that this off that. And then it's just weld it back in again across here.
Yeah, yeah, just replace that piece.
Yeah.
And even the flange that sits on the rocker, the 90, that can just be a butt weld on top of that.
It can just be a butt weld. I mean, they're 90 degrees and spot welded because that was quick and easy.
Yeah.
We're not, you know, we don't have that luxury of doing everything quick and easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the new rocker goes up here, this being what's left of the old rocker, we can just weld it, what you can see here, straight into there. We're not going to be able to get in the back to the flange, but that doesn't matter. If anything, welding it straight here, when you've got a flange there, it can do that.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've welded it there, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But
so
the factory was all about ease and speed.
Well, for sure, and they built them from the bottom up. They did the pan and then the rest of the structure on top. Yeah. So what's, not that there's a danger in it, because I know it's been done 40 ways till Sunday. What's the danger in doing it, because I can't think of a better word, in doing it, sectioning it like I was talking about, 2/3 of it, and then we'd leave this alone?
Whenever you weld two pieces of metal, it is somewhat weaker.
Yeah.
And the rocker is I mean, that's your, one, it's a rocker, but first and foremost, it's your outer chassis rail.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be butt welding a chassis rail.
Yeah.
And it really is. I know it's thin, and it sounds crazy that it's a chassis rail, but when you look at it, you know, you've got a chassis rail up here, which looks more like a traditional chassis rail, comes along and drops down and then goes across, but it has to do like a 90-degree turn out to the rocker and then 90 degrees forward.
Yeah.
So that is just as much a chassis rail as this is.
Yeah. And to retain the strength of the stamped form.
Yeah.
It matters.
Yeah,
it
absolutely
matters.
It does.
So, okay.
I mean, we're cheating a little bit cutting across here, and that's why I'm talking about going, like, coming up slightly and cutting across this narrower section. And if there's nothing to actually stop you putting a little, we've got room there, we could put a little plate on that.
Right.
And then do some plug welds. You know, but honestly, that is not as structural as the actual rocker.
Yeah.
And to join it here, one, you've got quite a bit of messing to make it disappear, to make it look really pretty, and you're having to grind a lot of your weld off, which is removing your joint. or some of you join here, we can weld it, and you know, obviously if it's so lumpy that we can't get the quarter on, that's a problem. But you do a nice weld through here, and it can just live there.
Yeah. Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough integrity with the inner, even though it's a little bit crusty there, it's solid.
Oh, it's really not. That's just a little bit of surface. That's
Yeah.
really not bad.
Yeah, the
Really,
outer
I mean,
wheelhouse.
this is outer wheelhouse is done.
That goes by
So
anyway.
we'll throw that out.
Yeah. Yeah. They make those.
Yeah.
AMD has stacks of them. I've seen
Stacks
it.
of them, yeah.
I've seen it. Cool, man. All right. Well,
So is this getting a quarter?
it's getting quarters, roof skin, tail panel, trunk floor.
Right.
Yeah, and I whittled and I finally got the rear bumper off yesterday, and it was just terrible. The frozen bolts and the carriage bolt. It was just terrible. Anyway, whatever. I whine and I say it's terrible. Some of the stuff that you do is actually terrible, and you managed to do it anyways. But
You just got to get in and do it. But
Yeah.
it was an education working on Marge, our large Marge,
Oh,
the
God,
59 Plymouth wagon,
Yeah.
which is a California car. Everything comes undone.
isn't that nuts?
Well, all the bolts,
Yeah.
just like you think, oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be tight, and it's just like,
Yeah.
easy.
And this car continues to surprise me like that. There's so much that just falls into the wrench, but then we find little clues that this thing has had a hard life. But it's all good. All right, let's start cutting some stuff, man.
Okay.
On the line.
Yeah.
Isaac's gonna buy a stick.
There
It is separate.
Just pick that bit off there. Reuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot easier to get to it now, and we'll just weld it through here.
Yep.
When we're ready.
Sweet. And if I had to, I could make another one of those, but
Yeah, I mean that's not overly complicated,
Yeah.
but it's got some surface rust on it.
I'll
But it's
wire-
pretty heavy gauge anyway.
Yeah, it's
so
18 or so, but
Yeah.
I'll wire brush that off and I'll clean that up, and yeah.
it'll be pretty again.
Teamwork makes the dream work, man. Holy God.
You right?
Yeah. I just gained a tenth of a second off the ET at the drag strip. There it is.
Ta-da!
Yay! Structure. Gone. Toss it.
Went
Toss
right there. It might land somewhere
The
that I don't want it to land.
celebratory. Yeah, you're going to damage all those parts back there.
All right. Let's clean all this nonsense up a bit.
Yeah. Daylight. I see daylight. Awesome, man.
All right, let's try it. Tapers, that's handy.
Ooh. Here you go. All right.
I can't see from here what we're hanging off. Oh, yes I can. Yes I can. Yes I can. It's this inner bit here. Those vice grips, but it was just catching on these little rough bits here going up. So we'll just bend that back, lay it over,
Yeah.
get it out of the way. That can clamp up easy later on.
Yeah, that's the good thing about metal is it bends back sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be, yeah, woodworking to me is not, you know, like when you cut it too short, you can't just weld it back together with a piece of wood. Like that's
Hard to do. Although Bondo works a little bit on wood.
a little bit, yeah. But yeah, shop class was always my stronger point rather than woodworking class. Sneaking up there.
Looks like we need to open up that front a little bit
Still
more,
needs
right?
a little more, yeah. It's just, yeah, unfortunate with that taper. Because this taper's here.
Right, right.
And we need to have it forward to about there, but we can't go in till here.
Yeah.
So it makes it too wide.
Chris, say what you said last time while I thought I had the camera on.
Okay. So this little bit of metal you can see here,
Yeah.
it's just like 3/4 of an inch wide, is actually part of the original old rocker.
Right.
Which just got rough cut out quickly when you were taking it out. So we've got a little tiny bit of weld there to get rid of, but there's a series of spot welds. This extends all the way along to about,
Yeah.
where would that be? Actually, it's right
You
up
can
to
kinda
about,
see where it's gonna
about
end.
here. There's a bunch of spot welds.
Yeah.
And that layer of metal is just enough to tighten that, because there's already a taper in it that's working against
And
it.
it's just a 16th, but it's
Yeah,
enough.
enough. And, you know, there's a few burrs and lumps and bumps in there,
Yeah.
so it's just making it tight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are just little, as you work your way in with it, I mean, it's closer to, at first we were like 2 inches away.
Yeah.
Now we're down to about an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And every time you get rid of one little obstacle, there's another little one.
Yeah.
And you just got to work through it. And eventually you get to the point where you just lift it up by hand instead of the hammer bash.
And then the
smack.
angels sing and we hear the sounds and the oohs and the ahs. Yeah.
Yeah, I get a little thing over my head. And, yep. And it'll go in and we can start welding it in. But we're definitely getting closer.
Yep. Yay!
See if that helps us that way. We've still got that flange there to weld in. And I think it's, you know, it's the issue we've had here on this pillar rather than the rocker, but
Yeah.
we're fighting. We don't have to fight as hard if we do it that way. And we're low here. And we have to take a little cut out of here. Give us a little bit more room to go up.
Yep.
Again, it's just whittling. A little bit here, a little bit there. See what that does. So, up the top. That point's pretty close. That point there I mean, this
Yeah.
is a little bit messed with here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this looks to me like it's going up a bit anyway. That doesn't really explain how low it's sitting there.
Could it be that the rocker, the inner rocker, is high?
I wouldn't. No, that's a lot of metal to be high.
Yeah,
if
and
it was
it's
one
still
spot.
And it's still flat, and it's
Yeah.
not folded or anything.
But it's kind of. Are you? How close to flush are you at the back? There?
At the back, it's really close to flush, like right up in here.
What's stopping you going further up at your end? Not a lot.
No.
Put a wood over on that. Don't try this at home. We're not actually trying to bend the pillar there. We've got it jacked on the quarter power because it is. We did find that it's caved in still at the bottom. So beating on it here is not really to make any significant bend here. We're just, as it's bent, it will have pivoted around here because of the support from the dashboard. So when you jack it out again, it kind of pulls. It doesn't just this is not a hinge. It doesn't just fold out again. So beating on it here just relieves a bit of the stress in the metal and allows it to have a new memory of where it wants to be. So when you do that, typically when you let the load off the porta power, it doesn't spring back as fast. Yeah. So we're definitely making headway. It was just not fitting before.
Yeah. So should I let the pressure off of it?
Okay, go on.
It moved a lot.
Wow. Significantly, the pillar didn't. The bottom of the A pillar didn't seem to come in. I could see it moving in my peripheral vision.
Yeah.
But the bottom of the A pillar didn't really come in. It was like it moved up almost, like around the steering column area. Stuff's on the move.
Yeah.
And that's another example of unibodies needing to be like solid and not be compromised with rust, because once you cut a few pieces out, if you've got a really rusty rocker, this has very quickly got no strength.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just a little 4-ton porta power, and that's moving the car a lot.
Yeah.
And if you're in a side impact with a 2-ton car at 10 mile an hour, that's way more than 4 ton.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So, you know, and that if we had all the rocker and everything welded in place, that would not be moving around. It's kind of just waving now.
Yeah.
Because we've got stuff cut loose. So, yeah, I fuss a bit about rust on unibodies.
Yeah.
But this is the reason why. Like, you need all that stuff needs to be there. Every piece is relying on the piece next to it. It's not a full chassis car.
This makes a good argument for a Schwartz chassis in a car.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The unibodies are super strong.
Yeah.
And they're actually, I believe, more effective in a collision situation, in a crash situation.
Yeah.
Because they have a progressive crumple more than a chassis. Chassis are almost, in that situation, too strong.
Yeah.
So unibody's great. It's an awesome idea. Like, the guys that come up with it were just ahead of their time. But they can't be rusty. They cannot be rusty.
Mm-hmm.
That's my little wheelbarrow push.
All right.
There you go.
I like it. All right, so with enormous pressure on the pillar, what we're looking at here is this, the pinch welds are closer. We've got it clamped a little bit there, but this is the most important part right here. This now actually talks. And what I mean by that is that this sees, it matches up with the original piece. Right here, we can see that there's a relief in here. It's an embossed area that this goes over top of. We've got this stretched. That'll tap back down. We can clamp that back down again and screw it into place. Important intersection here. On the other side, we notice this line here lines up with this. Chris called it a swage line. That must be New Zealand for Australian.
That's a British thing, that is.
So there, So what are we seeing?
Big improvement.
Yeah.
What we're seeing. Yeah, we've got the front, I think, close enough to actually start burning it in. The backs, you know, you do one thing, every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
So we've lost a bit of ground on the back, but I don't think it's much.
I don't think it's much either.
No.
And we can clamp it and pull it back together.
Yeah.
And I think it'll go back into place because this was not damaged. This is just kind of action reaction.
No. And that's just one little clamp.
Yeah, that's one little clamp.
But we'll have a closer look and just make sure it's not hanging up on something new.
Yeah.
And we do need to make sure we're the right distance forward so that this ties in with the quarter.
Yeah.
The quarter goes over that. So we need that to be pretty right.
It looks pretty okay because if you eyeball it down to here.
Yeah. Well, the eyeball will tell you a lot if you pay attention. You know?
Well, if you follow, I mean, the outer wheelhouse here has a flange on it, and the quarter wraps on it, and that's what this guy is here. Yep. So there's no pressure, there's no hydraulic pressure on this, so that tells us that we've kind of got it put back. I didn't have it pushed quite far enough, but we couldn't tell until we fit the rocker up on there, and yeah.
No, I'm pretty happy with that. That line's lining up just like the other side now that's never been hit. And even these little notches, that's the beauty with AMD, they go to the trouble of putting like these little notches.
Yeah.
That's meant to line up with the notch on the inner rocker, and it does.
And that's probably a guide from the OE assembly line, from the factory, yeah.
You'll see holes stamped, like little quarter 3/8 holes in a lot of factory quarter panels. And the idea is you just nut and bolt them together.
Yeah.
That gets everything lined up, then you burn them in.
And look at the pinch weld on the bottom. I'm looking at this super, super consistent right here with the rocker. It's not even clamped into place. Here, okay, so yeah, it's not exactly perfect right there. This is just roughed in. This is not even screwed in, and it's looking good. This makes me feel so much better, Chris.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think we got it now.
So, would you say that you could trust a Canadian guy to finish this out?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
There's a bunch of other spot welds to drill out and things like that you know, I don't want to waste your time. You know, and what you've done here is huge for me. So I just want to say thanks, man. I mean, thanks for getting me out of my thought bubble where I felt stuck and trapped and bringing your expertise in. If you guys get the chance, go to KIWI Classics and Customs. Chris has got some great stuff on the go all the time.
Yeah.
And I always try and pop in, and we're going to do a shop tour with you with AMD and all that kind of stuff. We got a bunch of great stuff coming, but please go to see Chris's channel, subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. He's got all kinds of great stuff.
All sorts of weird stuff.
Like really
Packards and
weird stuff.
Old
He
Mopar
said
powered.
Packard.
Packard?
Yeah. And he subtitles.
He talks a bit funny.
He subtitles just so that there's no language barriers. Chris Slee, thank you so much, my friend.
No worries, bud.
All right, cool.
All good fun.
Onward and upward.
Let's go and have a look at Derek's hot rod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we know the rocker's in absolutely the right place, I just can't start burning it in. There's some prep to do on the backside and some corrosion protection that we need to put on it, but now we can start the process of putting this back together. There's prep to do on the rocker, sorry about the noise, as well as on the existing inner rocker, and we can't just weld it in. There's exposed metal, right? So I'm going to use a panel flange and a punch to weld on here, and typically the factory is about 2.5 fingers away. So I just kind of mark them out like that. Go on either side of that guy. And 2 fingers in a space, and 2 fingers in a space, and 2 fingers in a space, and 2 fingers in a space. And that gets us about where we need to be, in my opinion, where the factory put this stuff. Now, we've got all kinds of space here. We need one fat one there, maybe one there. On the line, they got really slap happy with this stuff, and they just started randomly putting them in there, but I don't know. Call me fussy. I like them to be spaced even. Idiot. It's much more effective if we put the sanding element onto the tool, like that. The process of welding in a panel like this is really time consuming. Once the panel is properly seated without a lot of tension, then we can weld the plug welds or the rosette welds along with the flat flanges of the inner and outer rocker panel. Once all that is properly burned in, then I'll go about the process of prepping the rust on the rear brace that we removed and then welding that back in so that when we get to replace the quarter panel, all of the inner structure will be prepped and ready. Once it's all welded in place, then I'll refit the door one more time and figure out any shims or adjustments, and finally I'll run the inside of the entire length of that rocker panel with cavity wax to seal up the pinch welded panels, seal up any exposed metal from either the welding process or from fitting the panel for the last time. I'll show you that tip on the next episode, and until then, thanks for watching, and hey, please like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you guys think about this project, and by the way, I don't think I'm going to be doing a patina paint job on this one. Just saying. See you next time.